And so that's why I say with this aging thing is think about your mindset first, to really think about what does optimal health look like to me? What does that feel like? How do I look? If I'm in my most optimal self, how am I dressing? How am I moving? How's my skin look? Who am I with? What activities am I doing? Really paint this picture, because there's going to be days, just like in business or life or relationships, where it's going to be crappy. You're not going to want to do things. You're going to want to revert back to other things. But if you got this picture in your head, that's going to help you.
This is Your Purposeful Life, and I'm your host, Adrian Starks. I'm a speaker, podcaster, narrator, writer, and entrepreneur. On this podcast, we're taking a different approach to the understanding of purpose because it's not a one-size-fits-all. There will be a variety of guests expressing their purpose through the human mess we call the human journey. These conversations will guide you to a better awareness and understanding of your unique purpose in the daily life of mistakes, changes, and challenges, and how to put that purpose into action, bringing you more experiences of success, fulfillment, and achievement on your terms. Let's go on this journey of purpose together. Welcome back, everyone, to Your Purposeful Life podcast. I'm your host, Adrian Starks, and it is here where we're helping you to shape your purpose your way. Today, we have a special guest on, and his name is Julian Hayes II. Julian, welcome to our podcast and community, my friend.
How's it going, Adrian? It is. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm looking forward to this. And I think one of the previous episodes said you kind of had like a superhero name. I agree. That sounds like a superhero name.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for listening to the episodes. I have to think about that for a second. I got to do something with that. All right. So speaking of superhero, let's talk about what you're doing for people and helping save lives, literally. So we're going to get into your bio here a little bit. But for our listeners today, Julian Hayes II, he's an author, an executive health and performance advisor, and the founder of Executive Health and an atelier. I think that's how you pronounce it, right? Is that how you say it?
There you go. Little French. Yeah. Atelier. Yeah.
Atelier.
I could, somebody gave me that name. So I didn't come up with it. Somebody said, hey, you're an atelier. And I was like, what? What? So I had to practice it. So I went to Google Translate because, and so I was like, atelier. And then I kept practicing it before I felt comfortable to write it anywhere.
I had to go to Google and I was like, let me Google this and how to pronounce this, make sure I do it right. We're going to get back to you here, Julian, but for our members today and our listeners, make sure you go to our yourpurposeful.life website, and it is there where you can listen to the most recent episodes. Scroll down that page, join our YPL community. We got a lot of great things coming out, weekly episodes, and also to join our YouTube channel, Your Purposeful Life with Adrian Starks. Subscribe and hit that notification bell with the purpose, because it's there where I'm putting all the full videos, y'all. I'm not putting them anywhere else. I'll put snippets here and there, but you get the full videos and you get to comment in real time with me and even the guests. So go join that YouTube channel. Back to our guest of the hour, Julian Hayes II. I just told you a little bit about him here. There's so much he's packing with what he's doing. So Julian Hayes here has done a lot with helping people with their health. And he has a phrase that I really love. There's generational wealth and there's also generational health. And I was like, whoa, we got to talk about that. But let's get more into what Julian's doing here. Julian acts as a CEO of your health, where he monitors your health so you can maintain your edge and status. And he's also all about helping people live a powerful, high-performing life at the age of 70, 60. We're going to go backwards here, 50, 40, because he truly believes that as we get older, we can actually get younger. Biologically, you don't have to age. Numerically, you can age, but not biologically. So I really like the fact that he's taking this approach with his purpose. He's also the host of the Executive Health and Life. Lastly, he's written 300 plus articles, with the majority published in the world's largest publications, such as, get this everybody, Inc., Entrepreneur, Success, and many more. Now, if that doesn't say much about his credibility, I don't know what does. This is why Julian's on the show today. Julian, welcome, my friend.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. And it's a blessing to have the opportunity to do those things. And it's a blessing to be here.
It's a blessing to have you here. And I love to talk about the person behind what they do. So we're going to get right into this here. Obviously, you're very well established and you're highly successful in helping people with their health and personal lives. But I like to know about what I call the human mess, or the human journey, and how things came to be and how this purpose that you're doing now came out of it. As I was doing a little bit of reading about you, you did have a purpose before this, and that was to become a doctor, an ophthalmologist. And you found yourself in school and in New York and doing some things. What happened, Julian, that caused you to kind of shift gears here a bit and just say, wait a minute, I want to go this route instead.
Yeah, so I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, and I was in New York for medical school. So that's two totally different regions in the U.S., right? And so I wasn't really used to the city. So I had an initiation process, to put it lightly. Now I think I fancy myself a city boy now, a hybrid now, But back to that question though, is that when you're in New York City and you're going to cafes, you're going to lounges, you're not going to class a lot because you're just watching videos online at 2 and 3x so you can have more fun in the city. You meet a lot of people, and everybody has big dreams apparently. Everybody's writing the next great novel. They're going to be the next Denzel. They're going to write they're getting on Broadway. They're doing all these big dreams and everything. And I was like, man, I want that. I want to feel that. Because for me, I'm like, yeah, it's medical school. It's cool. You get a white coat. It's a guarantee of a certain amount of money, most likely. Mm-hmm. It's prestige, and everyone's supporting me with this because I'm first generation. So I have the backing of everyone. I'm the golden child. I can do no wrong at this point. But then as I go out, and I remember specifically, I'm in the Lower East Side of the place called the Yucca Bar, and I'm having a caipirinha, and there's a girl there. She's kind of cute. I didn't go on a date because I was really fascinated by her story and her journey of how she combined something that she's skilled at, something that she likes, but she combined it with her lifestyle as well. I was like, wow. She was very fulfilled, and I never really considered fulfillment in my life. I've only just considered having to be successful, having to get this thing, having to get that thing. And there's benefits to that, but there's really no joy and fulfillment that I had. And so I go to my anatomy exam, and I'm sitting there. It's like a 3-hour test, and I got a protein shake and everything. I'm that guy shaking the protein up because, at that time we got to worry about gains, right? And some of the other students are looking up, they're sweating, they're nervous, probably at the exam. I'm looking up and I'm like, man, I don't think I belong here. I was like, I got an issue, I was like, ooh, I'm not just going to quit right now. So let me ride this semester out. So I come back home and I have this like a movie montage moment where it's like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. I go upstairs, I look out the window, I just put my hands on my waist and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going back. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm not going to go back. I'm going to do something, something related with health. And so I said that, and then I want everyone to be excited because I think I found my purpose and my passion, or at least I'm starting to progress more toward it. And the only thing I get is doubt and fear from people because like, what are you doing? Entrepreneur? What? That's a folktale in my side of the thing. You go get a job for security and comfort, and then that's a good life, not this risk stuff. So, so I do that. And I start personal training at a gym. I'm getting paid peanuts. I end up working at a call center. So I'm getting yelled at during political surveys. So from a year's time, I was a medical student, living the life in New York, to now paying peanuts at the gym and at a call center, getting cussed out about political surveys. And people are questioning me, like, what are you doing and everything? So you do this for a while, and you really grow in this time. You really grow in this time, and you really learn about yourself. And so over the course of time, to kind of fast forward this, is that it's a continual evolution. I start to get into writing, and I start to kind of continue my exploration into health and human performance on myself. And I figure other people may like it as well. I find mentors to teach me different things to continually evolve. And then at some point, I talk to people, sometimes during my podcast and everything, and I learn like, oh, I think there's a need, and I think this will be a valuable service. I think it may take a little time. I might be a little early, like some of the cryptos out there. I might be a little early, but maybe about 2025, 2026. I think this is the wave. This is the way the future is going. And so that's kind of what I think about with health right now. And so presently now, I'm in the health space, but it's, I'm leveraging technology. I'm leveraging so many different unique tests and modalities that's concerning aging and longevity and performance. And so it's been a journey, but it's ultimately feeding curiosity. And that's been the ethos of who I am as a person, is curiosity and just letting that guide me.
Wow. What a story. I just had a deja vu moment when you mentioned the call center, because you and I share something in common. I worked in a call center. Mm-hmm. I did that for about 8 years. And you find yourself, you're like, what is happening here? But then you grow beyond that environment. I love what you talked about, how you found yourself in a different transition. You had that moment of epiphany. You're like, what do I really want to do?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where the purpose of our lives comes from, is this not just finding it, but deciding what we want it to be. And that's impressive. Now you find yourself moving into this health industry now. What caused you, or what attracted you about optimal health? This idea of living longer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a little bit of a kind of a rebel. So I didn't like when people say, Julian, you're not going to be in this great shape when you get past 30, and you're not going to be looking like this when you're past 30. And I was like,
I've heard that.
I was like, oh man, I wish you didn't say that, and so in my head, I'm kind of competitive. And so in my head, I got this on there, right? And so I'm thinking about that. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Also, it doesn't make sense. The average life expectancy is in the 70s right now. It's going down a little bit. I have an uncle who's almost 100. He doesn't know anything about biohacking or health. So I'm like, okay, this guy got to 100 and he's been through like famine and wars and all sorts of things. I got technology and knowledge. Why am I not thinking about exponentially? This doesn't make sense on a practical level. And so the first thing is, like, aging had this horrible reputation, because when you think about aging, you think about someone that's colder all the time. They always got to have the heat up more. They're colder. Their joints are more achy. They can't move as fast. It's all this negative stuff. Stubborn way. I didn't like it. To me, age can be wisdom. You have experience now. I think of somebody like LeBron. I'm in the Jordan camp. Jordan's still the best player in my eyes. But anyway,
I agree with you on that. I'm not going to argue with you on that one.
But you got LeBron at like 37 or 38. I forgot how old he is right now.
Yeah, I don't know how old he is.
He's probably top 5 in the NBA still right now, and probably top 2 or 3 when he really wants to turn it on. And he shouldn't be doing that, quote unquote, because he's getting older. But what he has now is wisdom. He has, and then he's leveraging also technology, because the world is continually evolving. And so to me, it made no sense to not, my curiosity just had to drive me here. I needed something that was more of a challenge. I got bored also a little bit with just the weight loss, 90-day weight loss programs and everything. That's not really differentiating yourself. And also from a business perspective, I don't have an Instagram. I've never really been drawn to that kind of world. And another factor, it's a multitude of factors, is so my father was sick, and then my grandfather was sick. And so I started to notice a pattern that certain illnesses and morbid illnesses ran on my side of the family, whereas other families, they didn't have those things, but they had other things that ran along there. So that got me involved in the world of genetics and epigenetics. And one thing led to another. You start talking to different scientists, you learn about different ways that we age, and you're like, oh, okay, so I can piece these things together. You have a lot of scientists. They're not really people. No offense to them, but they're not really the best people. So I'm like in the middle. I can be a bro, but I can also be a scientist. So I can take all these things and create my own unique thing. And plus, I love superheroes, and so I always wanted to feel like a superhero. So I'm like Batman in my head. I think like Batman. Batman is he's just a man, but he has all these different gadgets and tools and technology. And that's kind of the way I look at health right now, is that we can be our very own Batman.
Wow. That's be your nickname, Julian Batman Hayes II. I can see that. That's awesome. I love how you talk about finding the need for something. There's a gap. And that's a problem with a lot of things. That's a problem. When you have a problem, there's a gap between what you want and what you can't have because of a lack of knowledge. So you're filling that gap right now with this health perspective. And I love how you said, I don't like how people talk about getting old is a bad thing, because we have heard that over and over again. But wait till you get up in age. You won't be doing that no more. Why not? If we look at all the other cultures around the world, they have a pretty long lifespan. Mm-hmm. And we look at how they live. They're able to retain information. They're able to have fun, move around. And for me, this inspires me, because my goal was to be a centurion. I want to live to be 100. I don't know if that'll happen, but I'm going to focus on trying to make it happen. Mm-hmm. But the driving point is for someone asking, why would you want to live that long? And the question I would say is, why not? We live in a time now where everyone's wanting just to, as I think Henry David Thoreau said this, people are just living to die. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Living in quiet desperation, right? And that's what a lot of people are doing right now, living in quiet desperation. But now you're focusing on something that's very different, Julian, which is the optimal health, which I love. What is the most overlooked aspect that you believe of achieving optimal health for people out there?
I know we hear this word a lot, but it's really your mindset.
Okay.
It's really your mindset. I know that's not the most sexiest of answers, but I've seen it so many times where you have you have these wearables now, you have these peptides, you have these different vitamins and supplements, nootropics, and all these things. And sometimes people want a limitless pill. You want all these things, but it's like, if you don't have the mindset, these things are not going to be of use. Because a lot of these things here are only effective if you have that foundation in store. And so they're putting the cart before the wheel, or I forgot that saying.
The cart before the horse.
Yeah, the cart before the horse. Yeah, they're putting the cart before the horse with that. And so it's really their mindset. It's really changing their paradigm of what they think about aging, changing their paradigm of what they think is possible. And also, the reason why I say mindset is because you would be surprised at the amount of people that will give some resistance. Maybe not even intentionally, but just because they're just programmed to think that way. When you say like, yeah, I'm going to be 40, peak performing, maybe running marathons, maybe doing some lifting, jiu-jitsu, all these things as well. Yeah, no problem. I'm going to be having these adventures. I look forward to being 80 and having 2 or 3 generations behind me, and we're all just doing some activities. I'm not just seeing my great grandkids. I'm actually running around with them. I'm participating with them. They'll look at you like you're crazy. And I experienced this when I first started this whole journey back when I first left school, is that you had to learn sometimes you got to move in silence, or you have to be very mindful about who you share certain things with, because they're just not ready to receive it. And at that time, when it's such a new goal, and it's kind of like a baby, it's very fragile at that time. You can't just share this with everyone because you're still vulnerable about it. And so that's what I learned. I had a lot of doubt placed on me that I had to work through. It was from other people's fears that were placed on me. And so that's why I say with this aging thing is to think about your mindset first, to really think about, what does optimal health look like to me? What does that feel like? How do I look? If I'm in my most optimal self, how am I dressing? How am I moving? How's my skin look? Who am I with? What activities am I doing? Really paint this picture, because there's going to be days, just like in business or life or relationships, where it's going to be crappy. You're not going to want to do things. You're going to want to revert back to other things. But if you got this picture in your head, that's going to help you, because okay, I'm enduring right now because I have this thing that I'm working toward. I have this image that I'm living in my head right now. And so that's why, before you get involved in any of the tactical stuff, I say start with your mind.
Start with the mind first. And you're right. The mindset is sort of a buzzword that people use a lot, but it's actually a very effective word, because we can't do anything without the mind. And that's where you're really driving this home for us today, is that if you want optimal health, you have to really paint the picture first and ask the question, what is the blueprint for you?
Yeah.
And
another thing is, I don't know if people are to the law of attraction and the quantum world and all of that, but a lot of times if you find yourself, you think about a certain thing, you get really definite in that, it's amazing how those things kind of show up in your life.
Absolutely.
For example, I was doing just some piecemeal research on epigenetics and learning about this. And then all of a sudden I came across a gentleman who had a whole curriculum set up to learn about it. So I could just easily learn how to read genetic reports and provide it for people. I was just thinking about this, and over time it came. Now, to certain kind of people, this sounds a little cuckoo, but I've seen it too many times though, where you visualize a certain thing over and over, and that thing comes to fruition.
Wow. Let's talk about epigenetics, because you brought that word up a couple of times now for the audience, because I'm pretty sure there's going to be some people saying, what is that? And epigenetics has been around for a while, but I think this is becoming more of an understanding for a lot of people in the health world. The first time I heard about it was through Dr. Joe Dispenza in one of his books. I think it was called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And there was another one, Being Superhuman or Being Uncommon, something of that sort.
Yeah.
I may be off on that title, but I got kind of close. So he talked about epigenetics and that. So what is exactly epigenetics?
Yeah.
And how does this play a role in optimal health, possibly?
Yeah. So epigenetics, when you hear the word epi, that means above. Genetics is the genes. So put those two together. This is above the gene. So the genes that we have are firm. They're set. They're not going to change. But the way those genes are going to be expressed, that is the key. That is what can be modified by the way we live. A couple examples that I can share here is that you have the hardware and the software.
Okay.
That software is going to input into the hardware. Quality of that software is determining the quality of that hardware. So translate this to us humans, quality of food that we eat, the type of food that we eat, the way that we exercise, the air that we breathe, the relationships that we have, the fulfillment in work that we have, all these different things that we do on a daily basis and interact with the environment. It's a dynamic force that's communicating with us on a cellular level on genes to turn on, turn off, express, and not express. I love the queen bee story. So why does a queen bee become a queen bee? And you have all these worker bees. At the very beginning, they're fed all royal jelly, but at some point, everyone's cut off except the one, and they're continually fed that royal jelly. And that is how the queen bee becomes the queen bee, and everyone else is just the worker bees. Is that royal jelly? So that's why you see identical twins that should have the same set of genes, but one eats maybe a little too much processed foods, maybe smokes, maybe doesn't take care of the body a lot. The other one takes care of the body a lot, and they're going to have totally different outcomes, even though they have similar genes. And so now how you can think about that is that our genes are nothing. We're not our genes. Our genes are not our destiny. I hear in my family a lot. I got big bone genes. I got big bone genes. We run heavy in this family, things like that. Right.
Yeah.
And so, and our genes are not our destiny. Our genes are clues to who we are, where we came from in the past, but not who we could be in the future. Because this moment right now is really just a collection of events from the past, but the future is still undetermined, unknown, that can be created by what we do in this environment right now. And that is the epigenetic component. And so to tie generational health with that is that a lot of times I'm not just eating for myself. Say when I get a wife, she's not just eating for herself, because what we do, how we eat, is going to determine and affect a couple generations after us in terms of their genes and their expressions.
Oh.
There was a Dutch famine back in 30s or 40s. I always forget the year. And 2 to 3 generations later, they have higher propensities for certain ailments because of that event in the Dutch famine. So that's why, it's, what we do may seem insignificant a lot of times. But if you think about it, you really get grand out there. There's a lot of people who can be benefited by us taking, proactive, empowering actions today. We can change the course of time, literally, with people that come after us.
Wow. And you're right. For a lot of people, it may seem a bit on the higher end of woo-woo because they don't understand it, or they haven't been taught that. We've been taught, like you said, everything is pretty much set in stone, and that is so not true. So with this optimal health perspective is that at any point in our lives, we can actually shift how much longer we can live and how we live through that process by the idea of looking at our bodies and internally certain ways, which brings me to what you're doing with executives now. So let's go into how you're helping with this generational health. And I love that phrase, by the way, because we talk about generational wealth a lot. And here's a problem with money and people making money out here in the world and doing great things. Money is just, it's currency. If you drive it back, it's energy. The problem is that money's become more of our master and not our servant. And so we're putting all this effort on money itself and we're not taking care of ourselves. And so when you rephrase it and you say generational health, we're investing back into ourselves and into our future for our generations to come. What do you think right now the future of health looks like for people that are interested in working with you and learning more about this? What does it look like for the future? Because right now we see everything on TV. We see people that on the outside, they're not talking much about the inside. We have pharmaceutical companies, we have supplement companies, they're all going at it. It's like this big industry of who's better, who can do what. What does the future look like for us?
Yeah, it's a a lot of the things that I have access to now and that I use with people and even on myself sometimes, they're not available to a lot of the people in the general public. And there's a lot of red tape. And you're competing with, like you said, the pharmaceutical industries. You're competing with insurance companies. You're competing with a lot of people that don't want certain things to be there. So I think a big picture down the road, I see the world actually, I see a lot of these things becoming more commercially available. Because with any sort of technology, the first adopters, it's always much more. And then over time, it becomes more of a mass market, readily available to everyone. It's kind of like the iPhones and all that thing at the very, very beginning of time, and computers. And so I think it's precision. And that's the word I use, is precision. Really tuning in to each person's unique makeup, even in the medical system. Whereas an individual goes into a hospital and they have a certain ailment, instead of being prescribed the standard dose of whatever medication, they're able to get a more precise working of this person and give him the precise amount. And the reason why I say that is because we have certain genes. So for example, myself, I don't metabolize alcohol fast. I'm a slow metabolizer with alcohol, with caffeine and different medications, because they all go through the liver. And so I'm going to be different in terms of my alcohol consumption if I'm just using alcohol, or even different medications, because it's not going to leave my system as readily as someone else. And so those things are benefited. I hope, these are just what I hope on a grand level in hospitals, that, that's just one example. I hope people can also really learn their bodies more. We have all this, we have the phones now, we have the Apple Watches, and they give you basic vitals. And, for example, the wearable I have on right now, I got sick maybe a year ago. And a couple of days beforehand, my heart rate was up a little more, my respiratory rate was up a little more, and my HRV was down more than it typically is. And I was like, oh, that's weird. The next day it was the same thing. I was like, oh, okay, I think I'm coming down with something. And so I had pretty much 72 to 96 hours head start to get ahead of my illness. So therefore, when it came, my time down was dramatically cut short because I took preventative measures. And that's the hope I have for the world. That's, when you say optimal health, it's a big part of it is resiliency. It's not shying away, never expecting to get sick, never expecting to get any cuts and bruises. Okay. It's about how quick can you bounce back? How quick can you get back on the playing field? And that's when you take a more preventative approach than a reactive approach. We live in a very reactive society now. A lot of times we don't take action until we actually feel the problem. It's not beforehand. It's I feel this thing. Okay, now I should do something about it. Well, let's get it beforehand, and so you never even have to think about it. One of the best ways to know if you're doing things really right is that you very rarely have any issues. Like it's almost boring. Like it's cold season. Okay, cool. Cool. I mean, you get a little sniffle there. It goes away in like a day or two, right? Yeah. It's not like it keeps me down for 10 days, right? And so it's those little small moments. So to sum that whole thing up, I hope the world embraces and becomes much more preventative instead of reactive. And also, in terms of a mainstream, I think in funding, with research and everything, I think if the medical societies and everything, they start to recognize aging as a disease, then you can get more funding and everything. Because right now, it's not recognized as a disease, to my understanding.
Aging as a disease.
Yeah. So if you recognize aging as a disease, then that changes the whole thing. You can get more funding, you can get more initiatives and all that. Because there's a lot of things in the works. But yeah, there's a lot of things in the works right now, but there's no money to be made in it. So a lot of the bigger entities are not going to work into it. Like there's these cool molecules called peptides, but the pharmaceutical companies cannot really take these things and massively distribute them. So, they're a competitor. And that's why you have to say, you have all these crazy labels like not intended for human consumption and all that stuff that scares people off, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, which you do in that kind of stuff. You got to really know the compound and lab with that, or where you're getting it from, right? I will say in that instance, but those are just some of the things. But yeah, it's mainly preventative over reactive, and probably to help the world recognize that aging is a disease and to give aging a rebrand.
Interesting. Aging, that's a phrase of the show right there. Giving aging a rebrand. I think that's the wave of the future right now. I love that. You should use that as a tagline, man, because that is powerful. That hit me right there. So speaking of aging and lifespans, I know that you work with a particular type of group of people in businesses that are in high stressed environments. I mean, we're talking chronic stress is going on around the clock, and you're helping them to learn how to manage their health by using these types of new technologies that you have just been talking about. But for the people listening today from any walk of life, but if you are an executive, if you are a CEO, if you are a person that's in a very high stressed environment and you're running a lot of things at once, I'm going to put Julian's information in the show notes of this podcast, the links of how to reach out to him. I would love for you to find out more about what he's doing and even get a chance to talk to him if you can. But for now, what are a few steps we all can take to improve our health span and lifespan on this planet?
Yeah, most of the stuff that I use is actually available for the general public.
Okay.
Most of it is available for the general public. Now, I probably the benefit I provide is that it's all in-house. So it's like a concierge service. So I have it all, and I can just order it all and take care of it all. Now, one of the first things you can do is to go get your blood work. Just go get your numbers right now. Even if you're healthy, you're super healthy right now. And the reason why I say that is because then you're going to know your baseline of where you were at this point in time. So you have something to keep track of. And, one of the things is interesting. I say that is because, men in particular is that, there's a fertility crisis. And I just had a conversation with the lady. That's why it's off the top of my head.
That's still the cute lady that you were talking to earlier. Is that the cute one that you were talking to?
No, the cute lady. No, the cute lady 10 years ago. I think she was, what was she? She was, I don't remember what her job was. I was just so enamored with like,
I had to throw that in there, man. I just messing with you. I had to throw that. I was like, wait, is that the cute lady you were talking about earlier? Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. Let's get back to this here. So the person that you were talking to about the fertility.
Yeah, it was Dr. Shauna Swan. I just interviewed her a few episodes ago. But anyway, men's testosterone levels and their quality of sperm is like half right now of what generations were, previous generations, like our grandfathers and stuff.
Whoa, why is that? What is going on?
It's still to be determined, but a lot of things like in the environment, like different plastics now, phthalates, and a bunch of other stuff, right? And I was like, whoa, because a lot of times, I know this is kind of a side tangent. A lot of times when you hear fertility, you think it's just women, but sometimes as well, it could be men as well, because so basically both men and women are kind of under attack from the modern world. So with some of these conveniences and the way things are made now, the way they're manufactured and produced, it's kind of detrimental to our hormonal health and everything. And so that's why I said to get a baseline. And then when you see your number, a lot of times, one of the gripes I have about a few of these values in the standard medical system is that they kind of group everyone together. Like you're grouped against a average to unhealthy population. So not necessarily an optimal. So like what's optimal testosterone? Not just what's average. What's optimal, insulin, glucose, and A1C, not just what's average or standard. That's a whole nother conversation. But everyone can, they can get a basic workup with their insurance, most likely. Maybe you have to pay a little more out of pocket if you want extra stuff included, because different insurance is a very confusing field. It's very confusing. And so, that's one thing right there, is to start building your foundation. So know your labs. If you want to, and then another thing is I really like I like wearables. I really like wearables, so whether it's like an Apple Watch or Garmin or a Whoop or a BioStrap, I like those things. If you're type A, then be a little, don't let it, I'm a little type A, but don't let the technology control you. Just because your watch says you're having a bad day or you're not recovered, don't just let that ruin your day. Please. There's no absolute. So that's one thing. But I like it because what it does is it teaches you certain behaviors. So for example, a lot of people I consult with and talk to sometimes, even myself, they're a little stubborn. They have an ego, which is cool. So me telling them, probably don't want to drink alcohol too close to bedtime. Oh, but I sleep well. I sleep like a baby. Okay. And so you get your wearable out and you can see the breakdown of sleep. And what you see in this person is they had like 8 hours of sleep, sure, but they had very little REM sleep, very little deep sleep. they had mostly light sleep, and they woke up and they had so many awakenings. And their HRV is not good. Their heart rate's up the next morning, but they were sleeping so there's a difference. That's junk food sleep, in my opinion. 8 hours is 8 hours, but what's the quality of those 8 hours? And so things like wearables teaches us that, okay, certain behaviors I do helps me get this more restorative sleep, more of this deep sleep, more of this cognitive beneficial sleep in my REM sleep. And so I'm retaining information also. So if I'm a business leader, or I'm a content creator, or even if I'm just trying to be the best spouse possible, when I get more deep in REM sleep, my emotional intelligence is higher, because you can look at different brain scans. And what you're going to see is that people who are sleep deprived, they're going to have higher activity in their amygdala, which is a primitive, emotional driven state. And they're going to have less activity going on in their prefrontal cortex, which is more of the rational logic and reasoning. So not only when this is just an example with sleep, that, when you're getting quality sleep, your relationships are going to improve. You're going to be a better leader, husband, spouse, father, go across the board with those things. And that's why I like data sometimes, because it doesn't have a bias. A lot of times when I tell someone to do something, or you tell someone to do something, we're all little kids. I don't like being told what to do. If you tell me what to do, I'm probably going to do the opposite.
That's pretty much me.
Yeah, just to be petty and out of spite. That's just who I am. So when you have this third party and you say, okay, this is kind of what it's showing, let's see what happens. And then you have the labs as well. So what you're doing is you're collecting all this data, you're presenting a story, and then you can go from there. And so what you're being more precise. And so you're being more efficient, more effective. You're getting more of your time back to go enjoy life. And, because too many times we waste our time with all these supplements. Some of these supplements we don't need for our genetics compared to others. And, I guess I should mention another thing is probably genetic testing is pretty cool too. I think that's a beneficial thing as well. There's different companies out there. I don't like to, I don't name companies just because I like to stay neutral.
Yeah.
And I don't use any of them. I use a more private one. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. That's a good one as well. So anything that you can do to kind of get a blueprint of to who you are, what's your lab numbers right now, and then once you have that basic foundation, then you can maybe, if you want to, you can specialize. That, am I more interested in performance, or am I interested in just general health? Am I interested in, I really need to work on my sleep, or I need to really work on my weight loss and things like that? Then you can do a little more specialized and targeted approach, just so you don't feel overwhelmed, because there's a lot of stuff out there. I mean, there's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of it.
And there's new stuff. There's new stuff every day, right? It's hard for me to keep up with. And because there's new stuff every day. Like there's, now there's tests for like oral microbiome. So you can take a test and get your oral microbiome. There's so many different things. And so I think for people to not get overwhelmed with everything that's coming, is just to take a systematic approach and just kind of go brick by brick.
I like that. Go brick by brick and build the foundation first, see where you're at. You can have a comparison to where you need to go later. I love also too how you talked about people are different. So if you're on some type of supplements, which I take supplements, we're not saying, or you're not saying that, supplements are no good. What you're saying is that, look, you take this test, you see where you're at. Your body may not require this much of this supplement. Your body may not require this type of supplement anymore. And that's where the future of this is going, of knowing what we can take in our bodies, because our bodies are all different. And it's really important, because I think people just assume that just because someone says this, and I'm going to say this too, I don't put names out there because I want to be neutral and respectful of businesses, but there's so much competition for who has the best. And so a lot of these companies have the labels, they have things that attract people, and then people are confused, like, well, which one do I choose? Which one do I grab? And most likely they grab the wrong one, or someone just sells it to them because they're just trying to sell it. Or two, they don't grab anything because they don't know how to make a decision. So the decision today, what Julian is telling us, is let's take a look at your health first. Let's get that going. Let's take some steps, these basic steps here, because optimal health, as you mentioned before, is not about being perfect or never catching a cold. It's about how do you bounce back if you do catch a cold. Like right now, I'm not concerned about colds or anything else going on because I trust my body. But at the same time, I understand my body is not perfect. So you have inspired me today to go get a damn blood test done to see where I'm at, because I haven't done that in a while. So I want to do that. So thank you for that information. Let's get into now the performance piece of this. So we're in this perspective of taking care of ourselves, creating generational health for our people out here that are like you and I, type A personalities. We're all about, all right, let's do this. Action. What's the result? What's going to happen? So what's the success paradox? And how does this affect our health and relationships? Let's talk about that a little bit. What's that about?
Yeah. So, a lot of times people can say, man, I can't believe how does this guy out of shape? And he's so smart and he's so capable. Like, how does he struggle with like his health or his weight or something? And a lot of times people will like to say, there's two different types of people. First of all, they say there's people that are couch potatoes. They need to get motivated to just get some activity in. So I usually don't run across those people that much. I have friends who do. They're very good at that. I don't usually do that. Usually my people, and what I'm talking about here, these people is unintentionally neglected. Because when you think about success could be more monetary success, it can be more business success. It's more responsibilities. So as you continually go up more and more in the ladder, quote unquote, inside corporate or with your business, you have more responsibilities now. You're in more demand now. You still have a personal life a lot of times that's demanding of you as well that you still want to attend to. So if you think about all these things that has your attention right now, what unintentionally gets left off is your very own personal well-being. Because a lot of times these people are very giving, they're very benevolent, serving individuals. And also, nobody really wants to go back to the ramen noodle stage. You don't want a shoulder steak after having a nice ribeye. You just don't want to do that. I ate a lot of shoulder steak in college, and it's not. But so
I don't even know what I was eating in college.
Yeah. Shoulder steak. Those little Starkist tuna packets, and so I can't look at tuna packets and chicken.
That I remember.
Yeah, I can't.
The Roman noodles.
Yeah, I can't eat chicken. I really can't eat chicken breast still right now. I'm just. But anyway, we have that. So you have these people where they don't want to go back to day one because it was painful in day one. So there's pressure there. Then you got all these things going on in their business life and personal life. So there's this paradox with more success and everything comes, sometimes without structure and actually awareness, your health is getting put on the back burner because you're constantly on the go. You're grabbing foods out of convenience a lot of times. And then especially, I can speak to America at least, that things that are convenient in America a lot of times are not probably the best for you, with the food and everything. And so you have that going for you. Then you got stress. Stress is always there. Stress is a good thing, but a lot of times for these people, it's not mitigated, it's not under control. So stress is running wild. There's no way to take care of that. So you have all of these things in the background that is affecting these people. So it's not even just a mental issue. It's not even a physical issue. It's an emotional issue as well. And sometimes it's even a spiritual issue as well as too, because sometimes these people, they just wanted to get the bag. They just wanted to get the money however possible. And so there's no purpose or joy in there. And so once they get that amount of money that they wanted, they're like, this is it. This doesn't feel like what I wanted it to feel like. So you have all these different things. And so that's why another thing to keep in mind is that it's a system. We have to look at our health as a system. Optimal health is inside out, kind of as we talked about already. But look at this all as a giant ecosystem that's all connected to each other. For me personally, the physical end was always 10 out of 10, always good for me a lot of times. But what I did, I neglected a lot of the mental and the emotional components as well. And you can only run away from things so long until they come back and get you. And the more you avoid it, the more you kind of don't take care of it, bigger problem that it becomes. And that's what a lot of these guys, and with a lot of people, a lot of times is that once I make the money, once I get this position, and move up, I'm going to start working out more. I'll go get a trainer then. I'll start working out when I get more money, right? And so these people realize that it's like a paradox. I spent a decade working my butt off. My business is finally where it's needed. I can hire people and everything. It's 10 years in. But now my health is not that good, man. I'm pre-diabetic, or like I just don't have the energy I once have. I use the word edge. A lot of people say, I don't have my edge. And so, and now that money that they work so hard for, they're actually paying it back to try to get the health back, So, so that's kind of the thing to keep in mind is that, to really treat your health and run your body like a business. And what you'll see is that when you're healthier, you're thinking sharper, you're actually more efficient in your business and your company. And so it's going to pay off. It just seems like I don't have time to go for this 45-minute run. I need to, I don't know, make more calls or something. What's the quality of those calls? What's the quality of the writing that you're going to do during this 45 minutes? Whereas if I went to go run and then come back and attack this project, I'm going to be thinking a lot clearer because I probably have run some stress off, or run some demons, whatever you want to call it. I'm more of the fighter, so a lot of times I'm fighting demons or something when I'm out there. Some people find joy and it's all sunshine and butterflies when they're working out. I'm not really that type.
Yeah.
And so,
you come at us when we're working out, you get a whole different person.
Yeah, you get a whole different person, absolutely. And so, so those things is really to think of your company legitimately like a Fortune 500. Think of your body like a Fortune 500 company, and really approach it that way. Some of the tips to help with that is like in a company, a lot of times you see them delegate. So how can you delegate to help improve your health? And for certain people, breakfast is usually pretty good because they're in control of that day. But it's the middle portion of the day where sometimes you have unexpected calls or you have calls back to back to back to back to back, and you're just grabbing something for some quick energy. So maybe use one of these meal delivery services in your city. Probably check with your cities first, then using ones that are more national, because I don't know about like meal delivery services that ship everywhere in the US and all of that. And I don't know about the quality. I rather support local first and foremost, but if you have to, you can try one of those.
Local's good.
Yeah, that's just me. Try the local ones first, support local businesses. But anyway, maybe you get meal delivery Monday through Friday because and then therefore you're going to have this meal that's going to keep you on track. You can eat it quickly or whatever, take 30 minutes or whatever. You're still on track and then you can get back to it instead of having to just grab some junk and then deter your goals away or have a sugar crash later on in the day. So it's little things like that of what can I do to keep myself on the straight and narrow while going with this. A lot of times there's a fight between fitness and health and my personal life and business life. And we need to think about how can we synergistically have these two married together.
I like that. What a great strategy and a great way of helping us to really turn this around when it comes to inside out, because success, like you said, it's a paradox with it. And a lot of people are chasing it. I saw this, just reminded me, years ago, I saw this gentleman walking down the sidewalk in Seattle. That's where I'm from. And he had this shirt on called and on this shirt, it said chasing success. And I thought about it for a second. I'm like, is that really what you want to do?
Yeah.
Chase it, pursue it, because that's what gets us in trouble.
Yeah.
That constant need to try to catch up with something.
Yeah. And I don't know, I've been reading some of the woo-woo books lately and things like that. And if you're always
books are good.
Yeah. If you're always chasing something, it seems like what you're indicating to the universe is that you like something. If you're always chasing it, because that's the feeling that you're always going to get is chasing it. Whereas maybe
attracting it instead.
Yeah. Maybe it's more like I'm going to live this already.
Yeah.
So like, because I think about this like from a weight perspective, you hear people say, I'm chasing these 20 pounds off, or I got to work these 20 pounds off. But they're always having friction and everything. So I'm like, what if you thought about this from the opposite? What if you thought about this? Let's say you're a person who's 20 pounds lighter right now. What does that person do on a daily basis? How does this person move? What does this person eat? How does he think? How does he schedule his day? What do they do? And think like that. So you go ahead and live as you're that person 20 pounds lighter, and then you're going to get that result. And that's kind of just been a lesson for me, is that a lot of times we want to wait and get the validation externally before we become something. Whereas going back to kind of the premise, one of the big things we talked about inside out is that we have to become an inside before it's going to materialize and manifest on the outside. So you become the person that's 20 pounds lighter in much better shape. You become that person first by embodying those habits. And then that result's going to catch up. because time just has to catch up. You're already this person, and you're just waiting for time to catch up now.
Just reminded me of Earl Nightingale. He was he's considered to be the dean of self-motivation. And he talked a lot about we become what we think about. And he did years of research on this process. And there's a lot of in-depthness to it other than just a phrase. But you just reminded me of that, hearing you say this process of what do we want to be? We have to visualize it, think about it, act as if we are already that person, because that person will come to be by nature's law. It has to work that way. And speaking of work, how can our audience reach out to you to learn more about what you're doing and to work with you and to even take on some programs that you have going on?
Yeah. So website is executivehealth.io. And if you want to, you can just email me, Julian at executivehealth.io. And I always sit down with, or I guess, well, if you're in the Nashville area, we can meet in person. But other than that, we can have a phone call or something on the internet where for 30 minutes, we just talk about everything and kind of set you a plan up for there. And sometimes it's all people need, and that's it.
Okay.
And we go from there. And then if they want to continue working, we'll set something up. But while you're listening to this great podcast, go ahead and subscribe to Executive Health and Life. Or if you're on YouTube watching this, go ahead and subscribe to Executive Health.
Yes, do that. Go and do it right now. Don't wait until tomorrow. Remember, Julian said, action. Do it now, not later.
Yeah, like Apollo. What is that? What is it? Rocky 3 or 4?
Oh yeah,
Apollo Creed is training Rocky, and Rocky's like, tomorrow.
There is no tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh man, I gotta watch that movie again. You just reminded me of something there. Wow. Okay, so speaking of this, now we're having some fun here. Speaking of this, outside of work, so you have a way of balancing your life too. So you do practice what you preach, because you tell us to have this sense of optimal health is just not looking the part, it's feeling the part. It's inside out. So you do reading.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah. So you do reading, you check out cool restaurants and lounges, you listen to music nonstop, looks like, and you're learning languages. So I don't know right now, what languages are you learning currently?
As long as I don't have to practice them. It's Portuguese or Brazilian Portuguese, and then Spanish.
Okay, cool. I'm learning right now Italian.
Okay, so we're in the Romance languages.
We're the Romance languages, yeah, definitely. And I want to learn some Spanish too. What book are you currently reading right now? What's on your list?
Let's see if I have anything around here. Well, I have one book over here. It's Only the Paranoid Survive.
Okay.
It's a business book. And I just got done reading actually, let me see here. I'm reading another book called Winners, and it's written by Tony Blair's press secretary or something like that. And so he's just highlighting different people. And a health book is, I'm reading a book on peptides. And I'm listening to, I have a couple books that I cycle through, so that's why I'm naming them. And I'm listening to The 50th Law again.
By Robert Greene.
Robert Greene, 50 Cent. I really like that book. I like that book because it gets me in attack mode. So like, there's like a new venture that I'm thinking about right now, and I need to get some boots on the ground. And I need to, think like 50 Cent right now, without the shooting and the activity.
Yeah, without the violence.
So, no violence. Yeah.
All love here.
Yeah, all love here. So,
oh man.
And so those are a couple books, and then those are just a couple right now that I'm reading, and then I want to get back into salsa dancing and stuff. That's really fun. It gets me out of my element because I am a introvert, and I have to really teach myself how to be more extroverted and be comfortable talking to people on camera and everything. And so it's and that was one of the earliest parts of my journey when and that helped my mental health as well. So I got that. I was in therapy, and she's like, you should go like. I kept mentioning like dancing or something, and I was like, okay, I'll go try that. And you meet people, and it's been a lot of lessons. It's a pretty good workout too. It's a pretty good workout.
Well, I believe that you are doing a fantastic job. Introvert aside, what you are doing is honorable. It's brave. It's one of those things where you're helping to save people's energy and help prolong their lives so they can perform better on the planet. And like we mentioned before, your middle name now, I'm going to call you Batman. That's what I'm going to call you from now on. And speaking of that, Julian, the Batman Hayes II, I have one last question for you that I ask all my guests here on this podcast. What does living a purposeful life mean to you?
Growth and fulfillment.
Growth and fulfillment. Wow. Growth and fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's about. Today has been special, brother. I really appreciate you talking to us about the power of living longer. And that is your purpose, is to create a world where people can live longer, live to be 100 and be highly functional at older ages. And I appreciate what you're bringing energetically to not just this podcast, but the platform of this playing field called life. You've been absolutely wonderful, Julian.
Appreciate it, Ben. This has been a very enjoyable conversation.
Thank you for listening to Your Purposeful Life today, and I'm your host, Adrian Starks. Download this podcast on any platform of your choice by going to our website, yourpurposeful.life. Join me on my social media channels and be a part of the Your Purposeful Life community. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that like button with a purpose. Let's help you shape your purpose your way.